Let's replace the hard drive on this 2001 laptop. It's right here in the middle. First thing to do is flip it over and unscrew this screw. Take out the cover and we get a handy pull tab. Now I know I'm not the strongest person around, but it's stuck in there quite badly. The first time I tried to take it out, it was nearly impossible. I thought I was doing something wrong, but I was following the service manual. And it didn't seem like I missed any steps. Eventually I discovered the trick. While still holding the plastic tab, wiggle the hard drive left and right a little bit. While also pulling, of course. And it's still incredibly difficult, but eventually it should budge. And then you can pull it the rest of the way. Maybe grab it by the sides now, but do not grab it by the top and bottom like this. And there's our hard drive. This is a 5 GB IBM TravelStar hard drive. Notice the connector on it. It is a proprietary connector, but it can be detached after we remove the caddy. I don't know if there's supposed to be just 2 screws over here or 1 on each corner, but for some reason on this computer there's only 1. I thought maybe the hard drive was replaced, but it seems like it's the original one to this computer, so I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I took out that screw, and now we can lift the hard drive out of the caddy somehow. It's kind of difficult with the camera in the way, but it can be done. There's the caddy. Just a piece of metal, and here's the hard drive again. We take out that connector carefully, moving it from side to side without bending anything. And this is the proprietary hard drive connector. Such a tiny piece, but essential if you want to have a hard drive in this Acer TravelMate laptop. This is just standard IDE. There's the hard drive. And I don't think there's a key for the orientation either, so the part that says Foxconn is upwards. It also says 0111 on the left, maybe a date code, November 2001. Okay, we removed the original hard drive. Let's bring the replacement over. This one is an 80 GB hard drive, still IDE. It comes from a newer computer, of course. So if this side is up, then look at the label again. It should connect like this. Check both sides before pushing it in. And now insert it back in the caddy. So it came out with the metal on top and the hard drive was screwed to it. Therefore it goes in like this. Now we can screw in the 1 screw that was left, even though it should be at least 2. And now this metal shield is full of fingerprints, so I'll wipe it off a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, just a little better than before. And slide the hard drive back in. Okay, I think it's connected. Now we can screw this little cover. And we're done. Besides the pulling action and taking care of the little connector, it wasn't difficult. Now let's plug this computer back in and see if it recognizes the new hard drive. Okay, the hard drive is replaced. Now let's start it up to see if it's recognized. Maybe I should turn up the brightness a little bit. Okay, this is as bright as it goes. Let's look at the system information. And the hard drive appears to be recognized, around 80 GB. Previously, I had this hard drive in my Toshiba tablet PC. I think I was trying Windows Vista on it last. So if that's the case, it's never going to start up here. Let's see what happens. Oh, there's the boot screen. Oh, there was a blue screen of death. Oh, and apparently it's doing a memory test. And someone is curious here. Anyway, it's finally done with the memory test, and of course it failed to start. Where's the option to disable automatic restart? So we can see the blue screen of that, exactly what it says. Pressing F8, and there it is. Obviously it's not going to work, but that's what I had on this hard drive on the newer computer. And yeah, probably something about the memory. ecache.sys, never heard of that file. And now let's get started with restoring the original software. Even though it's a TravelMate 202T, the original software says 520. I was able to find recovery media online, so I downloaded it and burned it to a CDR. Let's boot to it now. Here we have 3 options, but for now all we can do is the first one. It asks for the keyboard layout. Doesn't really matter what you pick here. The software on this disk is in English. See, it says it only works with the 520, but this is a 200 series and it works. So that proves they're basically the same computer. Yes, let's restore Windows system now. I am sure. There are more disks with other languages, but we only need this one for English. Yes, I am sure. And now it should erase the whole hard drive and restore the system image using Norton Ghost. Now we just have to wait. Here we go with the first boot. And it seems the drivers aren't installed yet, but all the needed ones are included, so we just have to wait a little bit, and then it should all work. Notice the banner at the top too. What a stupid name for an antivirus, PC-cillin. Obviously it's a pun on penicillin, but it doesn't make it any less stupid. And here we are. Did you know Windows 98 had an out-of-box experience too? I didn't. It was basically just an OEM thing. It does some US defaultism here, but we can change it. I'm gonna set it to English British, because if I set it to Italian, it just sets the date format to the Italian one, which looks out of place on an operating system in English. But I do use the US International keyboard layout. Oh, and we have to restart to apply that change. Fresh technology for everyone, Acer. And you saw the tiny detail Acer added to the Windows 98 boot screen. Thank you for buying a TravelMate computer that has Windows 98. It seems like we have to type our full name here, but we don't. So I'll just type that. And here it does more US defaultism, but we can skip it. We're not using a modem here. Yes, I'm sure. And now I want you to accept the license agreement. Let's say I don't. Oh, oops, stop using Windows. Some people would actually do this seriously, even back in the day, if they wanted to install Linux. But no, I'm gonna accept it, just to see this original Windows 98 installation. And we're done. We get animations, waving flag and everything. No music though. That was in XP. We have to set up the time zone. I think this is where people start getting used to clicking apply and then OK. But if you've got an OK button here, it applies while closing the window. information about your touchpad. And also another thing behind it, creating Acer Time Machine based snapshot. But we have to get this out of the way first. It teaches you about the buttons and some gestures, which was a brand new thing at the time. You can press the scroll buttons and it can scroll the window. Although it doesn't work for a lot of programs, so not super useful, but it was what you had back then. Anyway, what about this time machine? You can read this screen for yourself, but the gist of it is that it's the precursor to Windows System Restore, before Windows Millennium introduced it. And in my testing, I found out that it works pretty well. Even if you can't boot your computer, you can boot up to the recovery CD and run a DOS-based version of this program that can restore snapshots for you. Of course, if you had saved them beforehand. But let's click on OK. And it just minimizes. Here's the desktop. Pretty standard except for these two shortcuts. We've seen Time Machine. It's still working. Some system tray icons. There's PC Fill-In, standard Windows thing. Intel Pro Set. Would this computer have come with Wi-Fi? Of course this one doesn't, but maybe it could have been configured for it. Or maybe it was just for Ethernet, which was an option, but this computer doesn't have it either. I have to use a PCMCIA network card, so of course it can't detect an adapter. I assume only 10100 speed, of course. Okay, cool, but useless in this case. Can we disable it? Yeah, but maybe I'll do it later. Another standard Windows applet. No battery is connected because the one I have is totally dead. Yep, not present. And there it is, Acer Time Machine is done. Then there's infrared, another thing that this computer could have had but is missing. I cannot enable it. It doesn't work. Volume, we can turn it up since it has a physical volume wheel for turning it down. Synaptics touchpad. I always like double clicking on this. Isn't it cool? Some settings here, detects where your finger is. You can also scroll by swiping on the very right or bottom. It also has these tools to detect how much you're pressing on the touchpad. And this one, which is pretty cool because you can draw on it, kinda. ATI. Oh, and I didn't mean to open this now, but let's look at it. Windows 98 2nd edition. This computer has an Intel Celeron at 600 MHz. Its architecture is named Coppermine. Wonder if these are still valid. Imagine trying to call Acer now and getting service for this 24-year-old computer. I wish. Device manager, of course, it has everything. And did you notice something is missing? Where's the Windows 98 intro? Anyone who had this computer at the time must have missed out on it. Unless they specifically looked for it. It should be over here. Welcome to Windows. Let's see, display settings. The only Acer background is this one. This other picture is just higher resolution. And there is a custom screensaver as well, made with Mac Sorcery. standard Windows color schemes. And finally, display settings. You can set a higher resolution, and it will pan around as you move the mouse. Not convenient, but you could have had it on this screen too. Some ATI settings. It has a VGA output, but not an output for a TV, like Composite or S-Video or something. Online services, the standard Windows 98 ones. Oh, and by the way, did this recovery use up the whole hard drive? I think it did. 80 gigabytes was massive at the time. The original 5 gig hard drive might have been a bit small, but an upgrade would have been something like 10 or 20, not much more back then. I plan on installing more operating systems on here. This would be overkill for Windows 98, unless you install 1,000 games, which I'm not going to do. PC Doctor for Windows, copyright 1998, Watergate Solutions. It's for viewing system info and diagnosing your hardware. Acer system info. Here it detects the Celeron as a Pentium 3. I guess they would have been similar. There is a video by Mike Tech where he explores this program a little bit. I'll link it in the description. What about regular system info? Great. Time Machine, we saw it before, but of course you can reopen it to see the home page and restore or make snapshots. It sets the default username as default. And is this a typo or what? Ace without the R? Come on, the basics. I guess they didn't see any sign that something was spelled wrong. Acer Laboratories Incorporated Easy Song. It's a media player, and I accidentally right-clicked. Let's try playing a standard MIDI file. You know what? Everyone does Canyon. What about Passport? I always liked that more. Yeah, having heard this 1,000 times. It's just a standard Roland music synthesizer. I assume there's not an option to set another one. Multimedia. Oh, there is another one. ALI wavetable. Would it sound different? I'm not sure if it's better, but it's definitely a lot more interesting than the usual one. I'm not sure why it wasn't the default. Thank goodness I looked. Okay, so let's try it with Canyon too. Let's move on now. Notebook Manager. Oh, we have to read this, of course. It says read me. It'd be rude not to. Okay, great. Let's see it in the flesh. And here it says Celeron. Oh, and it also detects TravelMate 200 correctly. Oh, it seems we can change some BIOS settings too. Love those 90s graphics. Standard Windows settings here. Oh, and the brightness. This won't show up well on camera. Well, let me try locking the auto exposure. It's locked. I turn it down to the lowest setting. Barely makes a difference. But I think I'll keep it at the lowest setting anyway. There are some additional settings in the control panel too. Why wouldn't we do high quality? I mean, 64 megabytes ought to be enough for everybody, isn't it? It sounded a bit different, but I'm not sure. Desktop themes, standard Windows ones again. Favorites, I think there are a few extras. Just this one, Acer.com. Sleep Manager, I think it's for creating a hibernation file with some nice big icons too. And the user's guide. Oh, why isn't it already installed? Did I have a choice? And there it is. I actually haven't read this before, so it might have some useful information. Always like looking at the illustrations. This is the higher end version with the 14-inch display with smaller bezels. Or isn't it supposed to be bezel singular? That would be a border, not a bezel. You don't have the left bezel, top bezel, right bezel, bottom bezel. All borders as a whole are the bezel. At least I think so. I didn't look in the dictionary, so I might be wrong. The online guide? Oh, it's not actually a web page. Nice. Well, maybe it is, but not on the internet. This kind of help system uses web pages. Ever try clicking on here and doing jump to URL? Yep, HTML. So it is an HTML page. Still, nice to have it stored on the computer for safekeeping. And now let's look at trend PC-cillin. Who was the inventor of the PC-cillin? When is the virus database from? CyberClinic. Of course, it is outdated. But antiviruses at the time also had an encyclopedia for information about malware and a virus list. I'm sure it's fully up to date. Launch Manager. That's for setting up these 4 shortcut buttons. So apparently the first one is Internet Explorer, the second one is Outlook Express, and these ones are just for Launch Manager until you set up something else. Let's try, I don't know, imaging for the third one. So now I press the third button and it opens imaging. And yes, the date format is correct, the day before the month. And I think that's about it for the original installation of this Acer. Not much else to see. So even though this video is long, it should be comprehensive. Nothing in the My Documents folder, of course. The C drive has these extra folders. ATI, just the drivers I believe. And Book, which is the manual. And the Acrobat Reader installer. That's it. Thank you for watching.